How's it going, YouTube? Coming today with another video, and today, guys, what the brand new is going to be the rulings video. Now, I've been seeing a lot of these rulings pop back up and people not knowing them, and it's really important that you know some rulings in the game. You're not going to know every ruling, but knowing the ruling at the time is the most important part of the game right now, because if you're going to be in a high stakes game at a regional, a YCS, Nats, you need to be able to know the ruling in the moment. And again, it doesn't really matter what the ruling is generally, but if you know the ruling at the time, it can really make or break your match, and it's really important. So this is going to be a refresher for some of you. Others, it's going to be really important information. So I really do hope that you enjoy today's video and really pay attention and carry this with you into future matches. If you haven't already checked out my sponsors over on Gem, Cloud, Arla, Imperium, Dragonshield, RW, MainPhaze, and Grimoire, definitely go ahead and do so. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so we can hit our goal at 30,000. Like the video, and we'll hop into our first ruling. The first one today is going to be a very specific one, but it does apply to other scenarios. Activate card demise is player A. Player B chains Ash. Can player A chain Gamma? The answer is no. Card demise immediately applies a restriction, and you cannot special summon for the entire turn that you activate card demise, so you can't chain Gamma at this point because it would be trying to break that restriction. Even though the card hasn't resolved yet, it would still be breaking the activation requirements of card demise, so you cannot activate something that would be infringing on the restrictions that are already being applied to the game state. The next one is going to be location. Now, I've been covering this multiple times and just isn't clicking. I know for some, because I've been getting a lot of questions about this. So I'm going to try to re-explain it here, and hopefully this is going to be the best way to explain it. So if you have Heretic Seal and then you tribute Heretic Seal and you on a new chain link are trying to summon from a hand or deck, great. If you tribute Heretic Seal and then in that chain link you chain DD Crow or like Magnemite, right? And you banish Heretic Seal. Heretic Seal has to be where it was tributed to on a new chain link to try to get the effect because it was tributed. If it gets banished, it is no longer in the same location and it doesn't remember that it got tributed. It has to be in the same location that it was tributed to. So if they tribute Heretic Seal, goes to grave, then it gets moved. All of a sudden, it doesn't remember that, and it won't try to apply in the new chain link. If you're under Shifter and you tribute Heretic Seal and it gets banished, it would still try to resolve in the new chain link because it was tributed to banishment. But since it was tributed to grave and then banished, it is now in a new location. It doesn't remember that it was tributed. Crown is a pretty crazy card. One of the things that you really want to make sure that you remember is the fact that this card doesn't target, it just applies, right? So that's something that you really want to keep in mind. I've seen a lot of people use this card like it targets. It does not. So if they chain anything on resolution, you can just like apply this to something else that hits the board. But what we're really here for is what you can do with things that are crowned. So you can send them for cost, which is important. You can send them for droplet, welcome home, things that would send something on the board for cost. You can get rid of the monsters that are crowned. The other thing that came up with the YCS as well was that, you know, if you have a dragon on the board that is crowned, you can still send it for Alba because it's going to be the conditions of a fusion is technically not a fusion material. And you're just like sending them to the grave, technically like a cost for the Alba to be summoned, which is really important to note because Crown is really popular. It's very good, and there are ways to clear the monster. The other one is going to be Dark Ruler No More versus Blazar. So a part of the cost for Blazar is to tribute itself and then bring it back during the end phase. Since it is a part of the cost, even if it gets Dark Rulered, it will still come back to the board, which is kind of crazy. Because if player A like Dark Ruler's Blazar, and then at any point in time player A like activates something, right, your opponent can just like chain the Blazar to banish it, and it will still come back to the board because it's part of the cost to come back. Now, this is something that I see happening a lot, but I mean, reading the card explains the card, and I hate saying it like that, but it's true. You really can't do anything with Doomdirg if it's attached to Jupiter. It is not a Doomsy monster, and Doomdirg is not a material of Jupiter. It's just equipped to Jupiter, which means Doomdirg is just a vanilla card. It doesn't do anything. And I've seen people equip Doomdirg to Jupiter and try to use the effect of Doomdirg or say that Jupiter was like untargetable, but it's not. Doomdirg is just a vanilla when attached to Jupiter. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't work. Now, if you remember the interaction between Ogre and Appaloosa, it's very similar with Dawn Dragster. It has to lose levels to be able to negate. So this is really important when we're talking about A then B, when we're reading cards and trying to determine how a ruling works. You can see right here, it's quick effect. You can reduce this card's level by 2. If you do, negate the activation. And if you do that, destroy that card. So we'll see a lot of and if you do, and we'll also see then. They're both effectively the same thing. It's just A then B. A has to happen before B can happen, but this is almost like A, B, C, right? Which is really important. So let's say that you cannot reduce the levels because you got ogred. You will not negate or destroy the card that is trying to activate, which is cool. If you reduce this card's level by 2, and if you do negate the activation, let's say that you were able to like reduce the level by 2, but you weren't able to negate the activation, you wouldn't blow up that card, right? So you have to follow in order the steps of the effect. The only thing that can really change this is like mandatory effects versus optional effects. So if we look at Cool Tune Rotary, that card, if you're under draw, you can still activate the effect to look at hand because the search is optional. It's not mandatory. If it was a mandatory search, you couldn't activate the effect at all, even though it's like an A then B, because B literally can't happen at all. But if it's optional, you can still use the first effect, and A can still happen without B happening. But if you want B to happen, A has to happen for B to work. Turn player priority is really important to understand. If you activate something like Reinforcement of the Army to add Sky Striker Ace Ray, on resolution, you can activate Super Poly because you're turn player and you get the quick effect first to Super Poly your opponent's board away. Now, on a new chain link, your opponent has no window to draw you. And this is even better with Droplet. If you have like a good send for Droplet, like a monster and a spell, usually, and then on resolution, your opponent just like can't draw you, right? Because it's always a problem if you go like Droplet, send a monster, your opponent like changes the spell and they change the draw on top of it because draw's an if. So it just doesn't really matter where it's at in the chain. It's the same reason why you can go like draw, that can chain call by, and you can chain another draw, which is really obnoxious, but like something that you can also do. So usually with Droplet, you're going to want like a monster and a spell, right? But still, it's a really good thing to know that you can just like activate a card of search and then immediately after just like use something that your opponent can't respond to, and then they can't draw you in that same window. So you can get like an additional search off before they draw you, right? The other one that's really important here to know is going to be resolved effects. So Mirror Jade activates and then Regeki's in the end phase. Chaos Angel just reads as synchro monsters you control are unaffected by monster effects activated by your opponent. But Mirror Jade's activation is just the ability to Regeki in the end phase, which is really important because when you hit the end phase, Mirror Jade's Regeki effect is actually what we call a resolved effect, and it will still nuke the Chaos Angel, which is crazy because this is something that a lot of people have a huge issue with. If there's a Light and Dark Chaos Angel, the number one issue is how do we out this card, right? And a lot of times right now it's like Fallen and Virtuous. But at the same point, like you have to have an answer for something like this because it can be problematic. I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, definitely let me know down below in the comment section. Let me know what ruling you really liked and what one you may still have questions on, or if you have questions about a different ruling, let me know that as well. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all so much, and I'll catch you all in the next one.